Do you remember where you were the day 50 Cent got shot 9 times? It's a story that still sends chills down the spine of fans and anyone who knows the history of the streets in hip-hop. Tony Yayo, one of 50 Cent's closest friends and a fellow member of G-Unit, remembers that day vividly. He recalls waking up and immediately heading to 50's grandmother's block, just 2 blocks away, after hearing the news. Even though the block was already cut off with yellow tape and filled with chaos, Yayo knew he had to be there. He didn't hear the shots himself, he was too late, but seeing the scene firsthand was enough to make the danger real. That day changed everything for 50 Cent, Tony Yayo, and the people around them. Tony talks about how intense it was at the hospital Marymaline, where 50 Cent was rushed for life-saving treatment. The hospital was crowded with people they knew, and yet 50 didn't want to see anyone. Tony later asked him why, and 50 explained that he didn't want anyone to see him in weakness. At that moment, it wasn't about toughness or pride, it was about survival. He was dealing with some of the most dangerous people in the streets at the time, including Preem and his crew, and showing vulnerability could have been deadly. It's hard to imagine what it must have been like to survive 9 gunshot wounds and face reality immediately afterward. But that's exactly what 50 did. Tony also shares insight into 50 Cent's family, especially his grandmother, a church lady who instilled discipline and values, and his grandfather, who represented the strong, quiet side of 50's upbringing. The combination of both sides shaped the man who would go on to dominate hip-hop. Tony recalls moments with 50's grandfather that left a lasting impression, teaching them lessons about responsibility, courage, and facing life's challenges head-on. That day, the gravity of the situation hit everyone around them, but 50 Cent came back stronger, more determined, and more strategic than ever. After recovering, 50 Cent didn't let fear control him. Tony mentions how he always saw 50 strapped up with a vest, ready for anything, not caring who he ran into. That's the level of dedication and caution it takes when someone has survived something as serious as being shot 9 times. And it wasn't just about self-preservation. It was a statement to everyone watching that 50 Cent was not someone to be underestimated, even after almost dying. The story of 50 Cent isn't just about surviving violence. It's also about making the right moves in music and business. Tony talks about being in the studio during the recording of Get Rich or Die Tryin', working with Dr. Dre and Eminem, and witnessing the creation of music that would define a generation. Tony remembers how meticulous Dr. Dre was, smoking, experimenting, and layering beats, while 50 played tracks like Wangsta, carefully crafting hits that would dominate the charts. Eminem brought his own level of precision, focusing on details that many would never notice. Tony recalls how even songs that 50 didn't initially believe in, like Many Men, became some of the hardest-hitting records of his career. Tony emphasizes the importance of mentors and cosigns in 50 Cent's journey. From Dr. Dre and Eminem to G-Unit and other artists like D12 and Griselda, these endorsements help 50 navigate the music industry and establish credibility. Tony admits that without these connections, it would have been much harder for 50 Cent to rise to superstardom. These were people who not only recognized his talent, but also supported him through the toughest moments, including surviving a near-death situation and street conflicts. Tony stresses the lesson he learned: never forget the people who put you on. They are the ones who gave you a chance when no one else would. The story also highlights loyalty. Tony reflects on personal experiences, how he always remembered the people who helped him and never turned his back on them, no matter how many years had passed. The rap game and street life are unpredictable, but respect and loyalty are constants. Even when critics or rivals tried to downplay 50 Cent's influence, Tony knew that his success was built on hard work, support from key players, and a relentless drive to survive and thrive. Tony also shares some behind-the-scenes moments that fans rarely hear about, like discussions about hit records and how certain tracks were crafted in the studio. He talks about the energy in the room with Dr. Dre and Eminem, how they listened to every beat, every sound, and how those small details turned songs into classics. Tony points out that even when some songs seem slow or unconventional, they had potential for greatness. This is the story of not just surviving physically, but surviving creatively and building a legacy that would last decades. The impact of that shooting and 50 Cent's resilience goes beyond music. It shaped how he approached business, relationships, and even media appearances. Tony reflects on moments where he had to stay humble, stay grateful, and never bite the hand that helped him rise. From television appearances to interviews and partnerships, every opportunity had lessons about respect, timing, and trust. Fans often forget that the path to greatness includes those early struggles, dangerous moments, and the mentors who helped guide the way. Tony's reflections also give insight into the culture of New York and the streets at that time. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and survival depended on being smart, loyal, and fearless. 50 Cent's experience, surviving 9 gunshots, wasn't just a headline. It was a defining moment that shaped every choice he made afterward, from music to personal safety. Tony shares how witnessing these events up close taught him invaluable lessons about courage, perseverance, and trust. He also touches on the human side of 50 Cent beyond the public persona. Despite being a superstar, he faced fear, vulnerability, and the weight of responsibility. Tony emphasizes that fans often see the final product, the albums, the music videos, the empire, but they rarely understand the personal cost, the moments of doubt, and the physical danger he survived. The story of 50 Cent's shooting is a reminder that true strength isn't just about talent. It's about resilience, heart, and the people who have your back when it matters most. Tony Yayo's account reminds us why loyalty, gratitude, and mentorship are so crucial. Whether it was Dr. Dre, Eminem, G-Unit, or the family members in 50 Cent's life, these people shaped his journey and ensured that even after surviving life-threatening violence, he could still rise and dominate the industry. And every detail, every memory, every lesson he shares with fans is a testament to that journey. It's a story of survival, brotherhood, and learning the hard way that respect and relationships are everything. So stay with us until the end of this video because we're going to dive even deeper into 50 Cent's recovery, how it influenced his music, and how Tony Yayo, along with other G-Unit members like Lloyd Banks and Young Buck, played critical roles in keeping the legacy alive. From surviving bullets to making hits, this is the full story that every fan needs to hear. Don't skip a second. Every moment matters, and Tony's reflections are the closest you'll get to the truth behind that life-changing day. Tony Yayo also remembers the moments after 50 Cent returned home from the hospital. Even though he had survived 9 gunshots, 50 didn't slow down. He was strapped up, always ready, and constantly aware of the streets and his enemies. Tony emphasizes that this was the real 50 Cent, the one who understood danger but also had the heart and mind to turn tragedy into opportunity. It wasn't just about surviving bullets, it was about learning from the experience and using it to fuel his drive in music, business, and life. Tony and the rest of G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and the others watched as 50 transformed almost overnight. The man who had been almost killed became a force of nature in the rap game, and nobody could ignore him. One of the biggest lessons Tony shares is about never forgetting the people who helped you along the way. He talks about the importance of Dr. Dre and Eminem, who not only recognized 50 Cent's talent, but also invested time and resources to help him succeed. Tony recalls being in the studio with Dre and Eminem and seeing how meticulous they were. Dr. Dre's attention to detail, the way he layered beats, and his ability to make every track sound perfect were things that Tony and 50 learned from firsthand. Eminem added a level of creativity and precision that pushed 50 to his best. Tony says that being in those rooms was like watching magic happen, and it taught him lessons about professionalism and dedication that he carries to this day. Tony Yayo also dives into the dynamics within G-Unit. He highlights how Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and himself were not just teammates, they were family. They learned how to support each other, watch each other's backs, and make decisions that would protect the group and their careers. He talks about the early days of G-Unit, the challenges they faced, and the risks they took in the streets and in the music industry. Every move mattered, because one mistake could cost them everything. This is why Tony emphasizes loyalty so much. It's not just a word, it's a survival tool, a guiding principle that shaped how they approached every business deal, every track, and every public appearance. Tony shares a story about the creation of the hit record Wanksta. He recalls how 50 Cent played the track for him and asked for his thoughts. Tony admits he didn't initially know if it would be a hit, but 50 had a vision. That vision, combined with the guidance of Dr. Dre and Eminem, turned a song that could have been overlooked into an iconic track that defined 50 Cent's career. Tony points out that it wasn't luck, it was preparation, knowledge of the streets, and an understanding of what people wanted to hear. That's a big reason why 50 Cent rose so quickly, even after facing life-threatening danger. Another key moment Tony highlights is the rise of G-Unit as a brand. He talks about how the group's success wasn't just about music, it was about strategy. From album releases to marketing, collaborations, and building a loyal fan base, every step was carefully planned. Tony mentions how they watched other groups fail and learned from their mistakes. Being part of G-Unit meant being part of a team that understood the value of credibility, street respect, and professionalism. That combination made 50 Cent and G-Unit almost untouchable in their prime. Tony also reflects on the importance of remembering your roots. Despite all the fame and money, 50 Cent never forgot the streets he came from, or the people who were there for him when things got tough. Tony recalls moments when 50 would give back quietly, help friends in need, and stay humble despite enormous success. Tony says this humility is part of what separates legends from everyone else. Fans may focus on the glitz and glamour, but the real story is the respect earned through hard work, loyalty, and the ability to survive and thrive under pressure. Throughout all these experiences, Tony notes the lasting lessons about accountability. He talks about how 50 Cent's shooting taught everyone in G-Unit the importance of making smart decisions, understanding consequences, and protecting yourself. The streets and the music industry are unforgiving, and every misstep can be amplified. Tony stresses that these lessons aren't just for celebrities. They're universal lessons about life, trust.
Tony also shares insights about working with Dr. Dre and Eminem in the studio. He recalls late nights, experimenting with sounds, layering instruments, and perfecting lyrics. Tony remembers how Dr. Dre would constantly push them to think bigger, to notice details that most people would miss, and to strive for excellence. Eminem, with his analytical approach, forced them to consider structure, rhythm, and storytelling in a way that elevated 50 Cent's music to a level few could reach. Tony says that being a part of those sessions was life-changing because it taught him how dedication, collaboration, and persistence create something timeless. Finally, Tony talks about how these experiences shaped his perspective on fame, money, and respect. He emphasizes that success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who helps you get there, how you handle adversity, and how you treat the people around you. The story of 50 Cent being shot 9 times, recovering and rising to superstardom, is more than a tale of survival. It's a lesson in resilience, loyalty, and strategy. Tony's reflections show that true success is about character, preparation, and the relationships you maintain along the way. So stay with us until the very end of this video because we're about to go even deeper into 50 Cent's recovery, the rise of G-Unit, and the untold stories of Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and Young Buck. From the streets of New York to the recording studios with Dr. Dre and Eminem, every moment is full of lessons, drama, and triumph. Don't miss a second, every detail matters, and this is the story that fans have been waiting to hear.